Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 170, I had the immense pleasure of having David Chambers on the podcast today. He is a dating and intimacy coach. We talked about a number of things. We talked about like the sort of different social media platforms and how that's affected the sort of realm of dating, what guys could do to sort of improve their chances, and yeah, sort of personal development as a whole. He is a very interesting chap to talk to. I got to say it was a joy and a pleasure, and yeah, I'm definitely going to get him back on the podcast if he likes it or not. But yeah, please sit back, enjoy the show. Please subscribe to the podcast as well. It really does help. And yeah, have a fantastic day. Yeah. Peace. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on the podcast, I am very lucky to have David Chambers. He is, this is for the single men out there. He is a dating and intimacy coach for the gents. How are you today, sir?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you doing?
I am good. I am good. Yes, before we started this podcast, you said, yeah, a momentous change has occurred in your life. What is this change and what are you doing now?
So for the last 16 years, give or take a couple of very short career breaks. Well, I had a 2-year career break, it wasn't so short. But I've decided to quit my day job in technology. Been like a software tester for the best part of 16 years. And I've decided that I'm going to go all in with the coaching, with the educating. Is that even a word? I guess I'm classed as like a sex educator as well. And coaching and intimacy and all that stuff. I'm going to go all in and just like put all my energy into that work, because I've been, siphoning off all the energy I can into the work because I've got my day job and that takes up a lot of my time and energy. But really what my passion is this work, is this working with men. It's like a deep passion of mine.
Yeah, no, this is the thing. I can tell you've got this, like, how can I say, you've got this excitement about you, a little bit giddy, I would say, with what's coming forth for the future. Like, yeah, so 16 years, software tester, like now it's like, yeah, you're all in, just jumping off the edge and like, yeah, seeing how you go. Now, I have to ask, how did you get started as a dating and intimacy coach?
Yeah, I guess, this question comes up a lot, and I think I have to go far back. I have to go back probably 12 or so years, 12, 14 years, right? I was really unhappy with my dating life. I was just meeting a lot of women, living in London, living in East London, and I was meeting women, but they weren't the sort of women I wanted to meet. I was like fledgling in my career. I wanted to travel. I was interested in, other cultures, ways of living, different food. I wanted to experience a lot of what life had to offer. A lot of I try almost anything once is still kind of my motto, right? And I was going out to bars and clubs, and I was just meeting, lots of women who just wanted to go to bars and clubs, have a drink, eat some food, get drunk, buy a new handbag, buy shoes, that sort of thing, right? And that wasn't really my sort of way of living. I was looking to, raise my awareness, expand my horizons, So I was a bit dissatisfied. And like many a man at that point, I picked up a little blue book by the name of the game.
You should not pick up that book. Is that not? Okay, yeah. No, please continue.
So I picked it up and I started reading it. And it's funny, a friend of mine, Ahmad, who used to run the podcast with me, right?
Yeah.
We went to a comedy night, actually. I remember it. It was Choice FM used to run comedy nights down at, it was the Walkabout by Temple Station. And I always remember that venue. And Richard Blackwood was running it. And there's another guy, I can't remember his name, he used to dress up as a woman. But he used to go by the name as Dibby. But this is...
Lily Savage?
No. It's like Dibby something. Black guy. So then I put the book down on the table because I was reading it. And my friend, he went to me, David, why are you reading that? I was like, oh, I just, I picked it up. He's like, you don't need that book. I was like, oh, okay. And I remember thinking, well, it's a bit hostile of him. And read the book and was like, okay, I'm going to go and use some of this stuff, right? So started going out a little bit, using some of the one-liners and all that kind of jazz, right? And it actually gained some success in that I was talking to more women, right?
Yeah.
And I kept looking into this and I ended up at a free workshop, which led to me going to a weekend boot camp, right? With a company that doesn't exist anymore in London. Did the weekend boot camp, had a lot of fun, and was out a lot. You're out all day, meeting women on the streets and then out in the evening. And then I turned to one of the instructors at the end. I was like, hey, I think I could teach with you on these things. And he was like, yeah, I think you could too. So this sent me down a path for about a year and a half of teaching men in bars, in clubs, on the streets. Now, over that time, I started to develop my own methodologies and theories, right? Moving away from the kind of very manipulative, very kind of superficial stuff from the game. It's like teaching men how to have fun in a club. Like I literally would bring a group of guys into a bar in a club and be like, this is how you have fun. You joke, you laugh, you dance a little bit, you talk to other people and you have more fun. And they were like, have fun? But what do you mean have fun? I'm like, no, you have fun. You're in the, you have fun. And I got kind of a bit jaded with that world, right? Because I was meeting a lot of men who didn't love women, right? They didn't love women. They just wanted to take advantage of women. And that's never been a place that I've really operated from. So I packed that in. Continued with I was doing that while I was still in my IT job at the time, right? So I continued with the IT world and started to do a lot of workshops and learning and self-learning and reading and all sorts of things, right? And continued having bad relationships that would end in turmoil, strife, infidelity, lying, all that kind of jazz that happens to a young man.
It sounds like a very good book you could write there.
yeah, definitely could. A lot of like being with multiple women, being very honest and open about it, but nonetheless, there was dysfunction in there. I got into a relationship for a few years, and we end up traveling the world. We're in Bolivia. We break up because of my inability to really communicate how I feel. Right? We break up because I needed space and I couldn't ask her because I didn't want to upset her. And this went on for about a year as we traveled. And on that day, I kind of vowed to myself I'd never let that happen again. So I continued traveling. I went and did some plant medicine when I was in Peru. And I got this, I wouldn't call it an awakening, but there was definitely a strong message to focus on opening up and connecting with people. So I did that for 6 months of my travels. I call it like my final leg, traveling through, Peru and Ecuador and Colombia and Panama and all these beautiful places, just connecting with people I met, just being really open-hearted. And I came back from that trip for a friend's wedding. And my good friend Ahmad, he was like, let's do something with this dating knowledge. He's like, all the dating advice for men is all about do this, say this, don't do that, dress like this and all that. And we were like, we know that only works to a certain point. It only works to a certain point. You need more depth than that. And we'd stumbled across this what we thought was a novel idea probably 4 years ago around authenticity and expressing yourself as you are, as you truly are, your needs, your desires, your wants, but also expressing your joy, your passion, your fun, as well as also your sadness and your unhappiness, right? But authentically showing up as yourself with the people you meet. So we created a podcast, did that this podcast is still going. I'm going alone now. And after a while, people came and was like, oh, can you give me some coaching? I was like, yeah, okay, I'll give you some coaching. And then another person came and then started running a few workshops. And now, I've got multiple coaching clients across multiple continents. I'm running workshops for brands such as Killing Kittens or Men of Manual as well. I've run my own workshops myself. I have longer courses. I'm training men inside of authenticity, dating, sexuality, a lot of stuff around sexual performance, as well as, foreplay and tantra as well. So it's really just sprung out of that.
When you say tantra, all I get is Sting like come into my ears. What? But yeah, like this is the thing with regards to the whole sort of dating scene and everything like this. Would you say when you sort of we're getting how can I say fast and fresh back 12 years ago compared to now today, would you say the dating scene has changed extremely, or is it the same thing? Because the game then, the game now, what is it? I've been out of the game for some time, so it's like, yeah, I felt when that's 6, 7 years, it was on the change. But what is it now? You've seen?
Yeah, it's interesting because I go back. The starkest change is this. If I go back 12 years ago,
Yeah,
I was doing online dating, right? And it was weird. People would be like, why are you doing online dating? That's for weirdos. Only weirdos are on there, right? And even I would meet women that I met on these websites, and we'd be in conversation on the first date, and they go, you're like pretty normal and cool. You know, all the other guys I've met are like absolute weirdos.
just like sitting there,
And
like gently rocking. Oh, thank you for saying that. It's like, all right. It's like, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna have fun with this. I know. It's like, yeah.
So you like back then it was online dating was not really, it was only beginnings of a thing, right? And you would, all these terms we have now like ghosting and breadcrumbing and graveyarding and all these fantastical terms we have for different things didn't exist back then. It was just like, because most of the time back then, if you met someone, you met them in a bar, a club, for a friend, or anything, right? So you met them in person first, right? So you had some form of physical connection, even if that was just seeing them in the physicality of being in front of you, right?
Yeah.
So there were certain norms that you would, sometimes you might go on a date and someone would never message you back again, right? But normally people would just be like, hey, it was cool, but bye, kind of thing. And also the availability of dating wasn't at the peak where it is now. Like, as I quote myself to a certain degree, a podcast I did not too long ago, and I said, a man now can sit lying on his sofa, chewing cookies with breadcrumbs all over, with crumbs all over his chest, while swiping as if he is some sort of Casanova, right?
It's like, yes, cheers, yes.
Yeah.
Thumb swipe Casanova. Okay, yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Whereas back then you'd have to show up. You'd have to go over to a woman in a bar and be like, hey, how are you? Like, can I buy you a drink? Or what's your name? Why are you drinking that pink drink? Or, talk about the weather or whatever people did. Whereas now everyone could do it from the comfort of their own home. So it's very effortless. The barrier to match with someone, right, is so low now. You just need a phone, you need some pictures, and need to copy and paste a bio from the internet, basically, right? Because that's what a lot of guys do.
Don't even write their own bio. That's like, yeah.
Oh, some guys don't even, like, it's one of the services I offer for men often, right? It's helping them write a bio and helping them take the photos as well, because I've also done a course in photography, and like when I traveled, that's all I did was take photos. So I really learned to take portraits and landscapes and all sorts, right? So they come and they want a bio written, and you help them write it based on what they do. Back in the day, you would have to meet this woman and she would have to see you, and she would have to reject you face to face as well, right? She would have to be like, don't really want to talk to you, kind of thing. Whereas now, there's a distance. So it means that we don't even relate to each other initially as really human beings. We are just personas on a phone. We're just some pictures and some words.
Yeah.
So to start talking to someone and maybe even talk for weeks or months who you never see in the flesh, and then to just stop talking to them and ignore them, is a lot easier because they're not really a real person to you yet.
Yeah, no, I get it. I understand. Like, this is the thing. I would imagine in this sort of world, 12 years ago, like maybe it's just because I was in the thick of it, it most probably was easier than to sort of truly like meet someone or connect with someone, because you would be able to see them physically. You'll be able to like transmit parts of your personality, which might not come across when you write it down or like send a message. But would you say and when I say the game, but like when like the sort of dating game has got harder for gents right now, rather than ladies?
So this is my theory, right? Based on my own experience, but also the experience of my clients and the men I've worked with. Men who would do well with women in person, right? Men who are I'm not going to say necessarily reasonably good looking, because I don't think that's necessarily the defining factor. They may be well presented, I think is a better way to put it. Men who know how to present themselves, who can hold a conversation, who can be reasonably charismatic and have interesting lives, right? Interesting lives where they do things that they're passionate about. Those men who would be doing pretty well, I'm not talking the best of the best, the models and so forth. Those men who would be doing reasonably well in person meeting women are just doing even better now, right? And the kind of top end of men who are, your models, who would have women drooling over them in person now on online dating, again, they're doing even better. It's the men who would be kind of what I was called middling and struggling, right, to meet women in person, but might meet the odd one. They're the guys doing even worse on online dating, right? Because there's an interesting phenomenon where the 80-20 rule comes into play, right? The top 20% of men have access basically to the top 80% of women, right? And the 80%, the lower 80% of men only really have access to the lower 20% of women, right? And it works in both ways.
Yeah, because like this is the thing, you saying that, like I would say there will be a lot of people going, wait, come on now, look, guys, you guys, you men, yeah, you dogs, yeah, you got the pick of the litter and everything like this. Like just walking down the street. Oh, there you go, hi. There you go, hi. Like, yeah, coming at you all sides. But like you saying, yeah, only 20% of guys get 80%, like get the option of 80% of the women, and then 80% of guys only get 20% of the options of ladies. That is quite an eye-opening stat, honestly.
Yeah. Tinder did a whole survey about this. And I think even I say 80-20, I might even be generous. I think it was like 10%, 90, right? It's basically the top end. Everyone swipes yes for the people they find the most attractive, right?
Yeah.
And because there's this idea that there's an endless supply of people, right, on dating apps, we're quite harsh when it comes to what we say yes or no to, right? Because there's this idea that there's this endless swiping. It's endless. Whereas when you go to a bar, right? You go to a bar and you're in the bar, you pretty much see everyone is in the bar, right? You see what's there, right? Whereas on Tinder, you could swipe for hours continuously, right? Until you get to the end and they're like, no, there's no more humans left in your area to swipe, right? So it gives us this illusion of having massive choice, which makes us incredibly harsh and very, very much like, oh, I don't like their ears. Oh my God, there's a spelling mistake. They're definitely a no. Like we get into that sort of mentality when it comes to online dating.
Would you say like, okay, I have to ask, well, I've heard the term of, yeah, I completed Tinder, and that's a dark thing when you're like, oh, I've completed Tinder. What, you've completed Tinder? Yeah, in my area. Okay, wow. It's like, how much work have you been doing? But like, would you say with regards to the sort of fussiness of people, would you say there is a clear sort of gender divide? Like guys are more fussy or girls are more fussy, or like, you know what I mean? Guys are more forgiving, girls are like less forgiving or more forgiving. Is there a sort of clear sort of, you know what I mean? When you say, yeah, there is this abundance of choice, so they get very picky. Would you say it comes down to like more down to one side, one gender or the other, which will be more harsh on the whole thing?
So there's also an interesting statistic that I think on most dating apps, I spoke to a woman who runs a dating app a little while ago for my podcast.
Yeah.
Men outnumber women on most dating apps, anything from 3-1 to 5-1. Depending on the app, depending in the location, right? There's always more men on there than there is women.
Okay.
Like massively. And because of the barrier to entry so low, so any man can just jump on their phone and have a few pictures. Whereas, like I said, when the days of the bar and club, you'd have to get into the bar and club, right? You need to look decent enough and be able to afford to walk into the bar and club, right?
Yeah.
That was the first barrier to entry. You would need to have enough courage to go and speak to a woman. That's another barrier to entry, right? And then you'd also need to kind of have something to say. Now, those things have all disappeared, right? So because you can just swipe, you just have a couple of photos and a bio, right?
So would you say like this, like, okay, the barrier to entry, is much lower, but would you like, okay, to sort of have that initial contact, but would you say the sort of effort is still there to sort of have some type of relationship spawn from that? Or is it just a case of everyone's out there at this moment in time having at it? Like, you know what I mean? Just like, hi, what's your name? Oh, yeah. Okay, let's go. What would you say?
Well, actually, that's something that's really shifted in the pandemic, right? People are now looking for something more meaningful, right? So one of the problems that often lies with dating apps is the way they're set up is it sets you up for superficiality, right? Yeah. It sets you up to look at a photo and judge someone based on one photo usually. Like it's something like 85% of online dating decisions, right, to say yes or no to someone is completely based on the photo. And they say it's higher on the man's side than it is on the women's side. Women are less likely to judge purely on a photo. They are likely to read the bio. Why I always recommend the men that I work with is to actually write a decent bio, because there's a difference. It's a huge difference, yes and no. So you're now in this realm where you're online dating and you want something meaningful, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to get past the initial superficiality that exists in, especially apps like Tinder, potentially in Hinge, because they're just very general market apps, right? So everybody's on this. There's a huge number of people, right? And then you need to be able to keep up a conversation. Now, if you're a man talking to a woman, right? And she may have, remember, men outnumber women 3-1, right? So potentially this woman you're talking to, she might be the only woman you're talking to, but she might be talking to 5 other guys, right? Because simply that's the sort of numbers. But there's also a very weird phenomenon with men often is that once they start a conversation, most men can't keep it up very well. They can't keep a conversation going very well, right? So if you're a man and you know how to have conversation, as I was talking before, I said, the men who know to hold a conversation, be charismatic, blah, 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 those men shine through over time, right? Because they have more to them. They have more depth, right? Ultimately, right? And this is what I'm seeing with my clients is that when a man is able to express his depth better, right? Through his profile, through his ability to conversate, right, with a woman, I want to call it initial success rises, right? And when I say initial success, I'm talking about getting a match, holding a conversation, and moving that into having a date. That starts to rise massively in comparison to the average man when they start out. Like, I've had clients come to me and they start and they're like, oh, I get a match like once a week, right? And then we sit down, we go for the bio, we take some new photos, we talk about some of how they're coming across, how they're talking. I like to delve a lot into why you communicate in certain ways, what's going on for you, where's your fears, where's your worries, where's your beliefs around dating and women, and also looking at, some of the emotional stuff is really important to me because that underpins a lot of how we communicate. And we start to work on that. We start to open up the authenticity and speaking more from there. I like to call it your deepest desire in life. That's your purpose, your passion, right? You start to talk from a place of like, this is what I'm about in life. This is who I am, right? And you start to build that confidence in who you are by reinforcing it through things that you do. That starts to really flow into the conversations you're having, and the success you have with initial conversations and moving that to dates just goes up massively. It's like, go from a guy having one match a week to guys telling me, okay, I'm getting like 2 or 3 matches a day.
Yeah.
Right.
That's great.
And they're able to turn that into dates. And like even during the pandemic time, there's a guy I worked with for a little while. And at the beginning, I was working with him for 3 months. And in the first 6 weeks, he was like, he hadn't been on a date in 2 years, right? 1 month after we've been working together, boom, he's got a date. He's going on a date with a woman. Then he says that he hasn't had sex for a really long time, right? A number of years.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. 6 weeks in, he messages me. He's like, okay, this girl is coming to my house right now. Like, I don't know what to do. He's freaking out. And I have a quick call with him. I'm like, it's okay. Like, we calm him down. We understand. We get to the feeling. What are you feeling? You're feeling scared. Why are you feeling scared? Oh, I'm not sure if I know what to do. I don't know. I want her to enjoy it. Okay. Who have you been with her up to this point? Because she enjoys that person. You don't need to be anything you're not. She wants you as you are. Right. And he was like, yeah, cool. I just need to keep remembering that. There's no magic here. There's nothing I need to be that's not me.
Yeah.
And the girl spent the night with him, and then he left, and I was like, how was that? He was really beautiful, it was really amazing. And it's just a case of that, really, when we can show up as we are, when we can be open to other people as well, we can express our authenticity, right? Through our actions, through our lives. our dating life shift, because the opposite is what a lot of people are doing is lying, pretending, hiding, trying to put on masks, right? Suppression of emotions and feelings, right? Being cold, being avoidant, trying to be aloof and too cool, right? And all that does is just create cyclical patterns of unhappiness and poor dating experiences.
Yeah, because like this is a thing. Like this, you've talked about the dating apps, and like this is like the, how can I say, the ultimate dating app of like true power, Instagram, where like let's just say you say authenticity. Now, it is very hard to find anything which is authentic on like that platform. And when it comes to the sort of dating realm, and look, when you're dealing with the whole world and everything like this, yeah, like there are a lot more. If you look at the activity of a male like profile on Instagram, yeah, hardly any sort of friend, like depending on who they are, hardly any friend requests or like follows or whatnot, or DMs. But you look at, and like, and when I say this, ladies, do not get mad, but a basic chick, yeah, her profile is a light. It glows with people like requesting for like giving follows, like DMing, everything like this. It is a hard, I would say, it seems like it's a harder world out there for guys dating. I could be wrong. You know what I mean? It might be happy fun time, but with the realms of the amount of choice some ladies have, they can get super choosy. And if someone's not really pulling it in, where do they go? What, like, you know what I mean? If they don't have that, what do they do? You know, it like, I know you help with their training, but what one bit of advice would you say to someone if they're like, yeah, I'm hitting zero. And look, your man you mentioned there who hasn't been on a date for a number of years, like, yeah, after 6 weeks, like got a date. After 6 weeks, seeing this last, yeah, it was Barry White time coming out big time. So yeah, like, you know what I mean? What would you say to that person? Like, yeah, just what would it be? Apart from, I think what the obvious might be, but what would it be?
Well, if you're a man and you think you're coming from zero, you're not meeting anyone, you're not doing anything, you're on Instagram and you feel that all women have a lot of choice. I think the first thing actually is to start to change your mentality, your mindset. If you are walking around believing that women have it easy and they got loads of choice and I'm a man and it's hard for me, what you're doing is you're giving all your power away. You're not being responsible at all for the situation in your life, right? You just first look and go, okay, what can I do about this, right? That's the first thing always. I look when I'm working with people, it's like, what's your mindset? Where's your mind at, right? It's like business. If your mindset is, oh my God, there's so many businesses in my realm, how am I ever going to flourish? You're going to be poor. You're never going to make any money, right? You never hear a businessman go, I'm a really successful businessman. But this whole time, I've just been thinking, God, there's so many other businesses better than mine in my realm. They don't. They have to start going, okay, what can I do about this? You know, what's the mindset? So I think one of the first things that I like to do is, I think it's expression. I think the biggest lack a lot of men have is expression, right? And that is what tells a below average man apart from an above average man. And when I say average man, I'm not just thinking of looks and money and status. I'm starting to bring in things like his ability to be emotionally intelligent, self-aware, right? There's the things that really make a difference, you know, when it comes to a man with prospects and a future, right? Who's going somewhere, purpose, is ability to express. So learn to express yourself better, right? Because the man who's on Instagram who has, I don't know, 50 followers and posts once a year, right? There's no expression there on his Instagram. Who is this person who posts? He posted a picture of a tree last week, and last year he posted a picture of an empty beach. Like, who is this person? I can't feel who this person is, right? Now, the women may be getting hundreds of messages in the DMs, right? And loads of friend requests and so forth, right? From these, I like to call them hungry men, right? The average hungry man who is sending dick pics, right? Is his average message is, hey, how are you? Or, hey, you're sexy. Hey, can I buy you dinner? Hey, baby. You know, these sorts of messages, right? That's the sort of thing that you know, or they're dropping that on the comments on Instagram. And I say this because I've seen this. I've done Instagram live with a woman who is like a sex educator, trainer, wonderful woman, really intelligent. And these men just kept popping up going, hey, you're gorgeous. Hey, you're really beautiful. Hey, I'd love to take you out for dinner. And I thought, yeah, she might get like 50 or 60 messages like this a day, but she doesn't pay any attention to them. Do you know why? Because there's no expression. There's no value there for her in terms of replying. Whereas if you're a man and you learn to express yourself a bit better, you know, you learn to take in the information that's in front of you and be like, okay, there's this woman, she's talking about love and sex and dating. This is interesting. What do I find interesting about this? Oh, wow, she's really piecing together the way in which people fall in love, the science, the chemistry. And then you maybe look at her photos, maybe you comment on the photos saying, oh, I really love how you said blah, 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 blah. But it's coming from a genuine place because you're interested, right? You're expressing yourself. You're expressing yourself more, right? Now, someone's going to pay so much more attention to you because you have just set yourself apart from the other 99 men. Because you know you are attempting to or becoming better at expressing yourself, right? And the same goes for maybe your Instagram account. It's like, okay, instead of posting pictures once a day, once a year, start to express yourself through what you see in your life. Like maybe you see a beautiful tree or there's a lovely sunset, post about it, express what you feel about it and think about it on your feed, because then there's people can feel who you are. So I think the basis of why most men struggle in dating, right? That's the men who struggle to get dates, right? Because there's another end of the men who are getting loads of dates but can't choose who to be with. That's a different problem, right? But the men at the bottom end who are struggling to get dates, it's a lack of ability to express, right? As much as, you know, if you're listening to this as a man going, oh, you know, but I think I express myself really well, you don't, because I've seen it. I've seen it on, like, I've got a partner, right? And she gets messages on her DMs from random men going, hey, baby, how are you? Oh, you're so beautiful. I love your blonde hair. And sometimes, like, I laugh and I'm like, I see it in her DMs. I laugh because I'm like, yeah, these guys think that this works. They think that this is how it goes, right? Because if they didn't, they wouldn't be doing it. They do something that they thought would work, right? So it's a lack of expression. And for some men, it's shyness. They don't actually express themselves at all. For some men, that lack of expression shows up in fear of rejection or not feeling good enough, right? So they don't express themselves. But if you can get your expression going, right? And I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do. It takes work. It takes work to do.
Yeah, because like this is the thing. Yeah, it takes work to do. And what I'm getting loud and clear from what you're saying, I might be mishearing you. I might be interpreting wrong. But it's like, yeah, look, you want to go out there and date and like meet these ladies and stuff like this, but you've got like, you're not expressing yourself or anything like this. You like someone who puts up an Instagram picture once a year of a tree or an empty beach or whatnot. It just means like, hey, before you sort of get yourself and put yourself out there, start doing some work on yourself. Like start making yourself a more rounded character, because when you start doing that, yeah, all of a sudden it's like, right, yeah, what are 3 things you want to do? I want to read more, travel, and get fit. Okay, start to read. Like read. Like, yes, travel to a number of different places. Like, yeah, and then yeah, get yourself fit. All of a sudden it's like, okay, yeah. On the Instagram feed, it's like, I've been reading this book on blah, blah, blah. I found it just being very interesting and enlightening with this. I've traveled here, I've traveled there. And like, yeah, really sort of like Reddit might connect with that, but just been to the gym first time in 2 years. And like, yeah, I've had this go on. But I think that's one of the things I might be wrong, but I see many a guy out there not really sort of doing with it. Then that's where the hard work, I think, needs to come into play. Soon as that happens, then like things start to happen. Might be wrong, but hey, you tell me. You're the expert. You're the coach. I'm a humble student in life.
We are all students in life. You
see, that's the coach answer right there.
but it's true. And this is the thing is that, and in the realm of which I work, right, men are getting a really bad name for being lazy. for being lazy, for not be willing to do this work, right, to improve themselves on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level, right?
Yeah.
You hear a lot of women being like, look, I'm resolving my childhood trauma and I'm trying to learn why I have these dysfunctional relationship patterns, right? I'm doing the work to heal this so I can move forward. And the men out here are just too busy sending dick pics, like, or dodging this stuff and being avoidant and being players and being Peter Pan archetypes and things like that. And the thing is when you do get on this journey, right? And I've seen so many men who are like very reluctant. Oh, I don't need to. I just, a lot of men hide it with, let me just make some more money. Let me make more money. Because when I make more money, women like money, right? And I always say to men, I say this, if you're going to make money and that's going to be your avenue to meet women, you meet a woman, right, who you fall in love with, right? And maybe you become a successful man, you've got £500,000 house and you earn 100,000 a year and you love her and you're like, she loves me. But you also think she's kind of with you because of all the money and stuff. What happens when a man comes along and he's a multimillionaire and he's got a Ferrari and a house that's £2 million and all these things? How are you going to feel? What's your thinking going to be, right? And you know what that thinking is? Those men go into massive anxiety because they're always worried that another man will come along with exactly what they have and take their woman away. They become possessive, they become angry, they go a few different ways, right? But because you feel that you've bought your wife, you've bought your relationship, it's all based on the things you have, not the character of the man. When a man builds his character, right, he builds who he is as a person. He reaches his potential as a being. He puts purposeful work into life. He speaks with passion and love, right? The people he attracts, they like him for him, who he is. He could be a pauper on the street, There's many a story I've heard of men who walk into bars, these beautiful West End bars of all these rich guys, right? And a man just walks in, he's a very regular guy, but he's a man of character and substance. And people are drawn to him. They don't know why they're drawn to him. They're like, there's something about this guy. And women are wanting to get involved because there's something there. They can feel it. There's an energetic attraction that's there that's beyond just the money, right? So when you do this work, you set yourself apart from the average man very, very quickly because you're emotionally intelligent, you're self-aware, you can communicate powerfully, right? You have joy, you have passion, you have hobbies, but you also will have emotions that aren't completely positive because that's part of life as well, right? But ultimately, if you want a more evolved relationship and experience, right, with inside of relationships, this work will take you to new heights and take your relationships to levels that you didn't realize are possible, like the levels of connection and union you can experience, right? When you do this work, you start to go, do you know what? I have a huge fear of rejection. Where did that come from? Oh yeah, my dad, he used to tell me I was good for nothing. Okay, let me start working on that. Heal my relationship with my father. Let's move forward from that. Or maybe for you have fears around not being free because you saw your mother was you saw your mother was what's it called? Sorry, the beeping really lost my train of thought. You saw your mother was maybe financially trapped by your father, for instance, and now you believe that you always have to be free, right? Because this is how our brains operate as adults and as children. Now you need to be like, okay, I'm an adult now. Do I need to worry about freedom? Maybe you need to go to some therapy. Maybe you need to do some, ancestral work or, somatic work or whatever it may be. You start to heal that and you start to break free of these old ways of thinking, these limiting beliefs, and you can move forward to have happier relationships. I said a lot there, I just realized.
No, it's all good, fella. It's all good. Like, because look, the whole thing is like all of the stuff we've been talking about. Yeah, it requires deep work. It requires like how can I say, looking inwards and sometimes not liking what you always see. The sort of self-accountability which is sometimes called upon is, how can I put it? Some people see it as a burden they do not wish to carry. So by ignoring it, they're not carrying it. They are just moving forward. Where to, they don't know. How they're going to get to that magical destination, they have no clue. And like, you know what I mean? And when you say, like, when you're talking about anxiety for someone who likes put everything on the sort of realms of money to like acquire his like his significant other, that is like, that anxiety will lead across the board for, like, yeah, man and woman alike. Because look, you mentioned that, yeah, there's ladies like, I'm doing work on myself and stuff like this, and like, yeah, there's guys sending dick pics, but like, look, the ladies out there are not all sort of sweetness and light when it comes to this side of things as well, you know. You know, so it's like one of those things. There are two groups of people where, like, yeah, I need to work on themselves and, like, you know what I mean, make things better. Because look,
Definitely.
rising above the average, come on now. Yeah, it should be. It's doesn't require much to rise above the average these days. I'm just saying.
I agree. I totally agree. It doesn't take. It's not rocket science anymore. You know, there's so much information about, right, helping you be a better person. There are, you know, you go into the average bookshop and there is books upon books upon books, right? All you need to do is pick up the book, read the book, and take some action. And I think that's the missing piece for a lot of people. And you make a really good point, right? There's a lot of women out here not doing any work, right? They're just, you know, trying to look good and look pretty and get a new handbag, right? Yeah. Find a richer man than the last one they were with, right? There's a lot of that too. But ultimately, we're only gonna. This what I always say is, we are part of an evolutionary system, right? If we want to admit it or not, the universe as a whole is evolving forward, right? I am sitting here, and behind me are my forefathers, my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, right? I am part of an evolution of my heritage, of my lineage, right? I can either be active in that evolution, right? Or I can be passive stroke regressive in the evolution, right? Now, what do I want to do? Do I want to evolve myself forward, right? And be part of the active evolution of my lineage, my people, right? My family? Or do I just want to just like, just going to roll and be here, not be any better than anyone else, right? And carry that forward, right? Because that carries forward, right? We pass those things downwards.
Yeah, no, yeah, indeed. Yeah, you know what? You give a lot of food for thought, my friend. You give a lot of food for thought. But yeah, like, what I would simply say, like this is the thing. One of the things, what sort of like I've been sort of 2020 sort of highlighted a new like phenomena, like, and I think it's sort of stemmed out of the realm of loneliness. That the sort of rise of OnlyFans, okay. Like with regards to that, look, okay, don't get me wrong. Look, like when you talk about OnlyFans and that, people are going, oh, it's just porn, blah 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 blah, and I go, is it though? Because like if it was just porn, you can get porn for free. Like, yes, you can get porn for free out there, people, but like, you can get porn for free, but it like. There's something deeper going on, I think, with regards to OnlyFans because of, I don't know, a surrogate sort of relationship. I might be wrong with that, but yeah, what do you say?
No, I agree. If you're seeing a rise, there's a huge rise of loneliness, right? And also we can't negate the pandemic has created a huge mental health issue, right? It's caused I wouldn't even say nationwide, right? It's a worldwide mental health problem we're sitting on. We're sitting on a ticking time bomb around mental health. And I'm going to say in the UK, right, because I'm more aware of that because that's where I am. Because we've locked everyone up for the best part of a year and a half. And then they've been fed this fear constantly, right? Constant fear. So people's like nervous systems are on edge constantly. And now they said, oh, you can go out now. But the fear they've done nothing to alleviate the fear. So now people are then anxious, worried, fearful of other human beings, right? Yeah. Scared to be in presence with other human beings. So there's fearful, right? And the people are seeking ways to feel better, right? So as you say, with OnlyFans, I go on OnlyFans and I can, I see some content. I don't see the actual content on OnlyFans, but I see people talking about the content on OnlyFans, which has given a lot of sex workers a platform to make money more than they would in a very safe way, right? Which I'm really for. Like, I'm a big believer that sex work is real work, right? It's work. It's one of the oldest works. It's in the Bible, it's long before I was writing code and all sorts of things, right? but it's also risen to a lot of men, because mainly men get sucked into this because of their sexualization of women, I think, right? They get sucked into these fake relationships. As you said, it's like, oh, I'm paying you to send me photos and videos and tell me nice things, right? And the man, often men, they kind of get into this warped idea of like, oh, she really likes me, she really wants me, she says all these things. But like you said, it's a surrogate relationship, but it's a denial. It's also a denial, right, of reality and truth. It becomes quite warped, right? Because you think you're in a relationship with someone who deep down you know you're not, because you know that there's an exchange of money, but you convince yourself that it's true, so maybe you don't feel anything that's wrong with paying money, right? Because a lot of people still have, you know, a bit of an issue, a bit of they struggle with the idea of paying someone to for sexual services, for instance, right? And I think I would say that even sending someone photos and naked photos is a sexual service in many ways. So they become deluded, right, in these relationships, and that's not good for your mental health, because you are negating an obvious truth, right? You're negating something that deep down you know is true, but you're layering on top of it these fantasies and ideas. And it's caused because of loneliness, and all it takes is for the woman to, you know, the man to maybe step a bit too far in his requests or how he's acting. The woman's like, oh, look, that's a bit much for me, and it all shuts down, and suddenly there's that feeling of loss because of the fact that they've never tapped into this real truth, that this isn't a real relationship, right?
Yeah, because like when it comes to that side of things, like I would imagine, because they are paying to receive images, paying to receive videos, paying on that side of things, and as you say, it gets to up until a point, but it can't actually go any further than that. So it's a case of, okay, I would say it's maybe for some risk averse gentlemen out there who have maybe been hurt, it's like, okay, I've got it all up until this point, but now that's the line, and I don't want to venture past that, and I'm not going to get hurt. So they're kind of like living that lie, because honestly, if they like the whole what they want and desire, they're not really sort of getting it. If they went to, say, a prostitute or in a brothel or somewhere like that, I would say that is much more of an honest transaction than what they are doing in the realm of like OnlyFans. Like, people can disagree with me, but I think I see it that way. Like, but yes, I'm curious. Like, what would you say?
I think there's also, you can't negate human beings' need for physicality, for physically touching and physically being with people. You know, there's all sorts of studies around children who didn't get enough physical nurturing when they grew up, and how they grew up and how that affects their development. It affects their development mentally, right, and emotionally. And I've got a little nephew, and I try and see him pretty much every week now. And I literally physically feel better when I've been to see him and we've played around on the floor, and, you know, we've run around, I've picked him up and thrown him around. I can feel that my body feels better, right? I have my partner. When I am physical and I feel her and I touch her, I feel my spirits better. I feel more connected. Now, if your only relationships happen across online, you're losing out on actually what I was saying when it comes to a romantic relationship, a sexual relationship. You're actually missing out on the actual essence of it, which is the physical contact and the physical intimacy, right, that occurs there with another person. So that actually is even more of a live relationship, because your relationship is so pseudo, right? It's just simply a data relationship. You're sending data across wire with some sound and some images, but there's no kind of like physical nature to it. There's nothing real to it, in my opinion, right? Especially if it's it's really a transactional goings on. So I feel like, you know, going to see like prostitutes in a brothel, at least there's a physicality there, right? There's a physicality. I think the thing with OnlyFans is, like, I've been reading a little bit recently, is around the exploitation of women. It's still occurring even through OnlyFans, right? There's still like OnlyFans don't do enough work around checking people's ages and stuff like that. And then I think that's also the problem with, you know, brothels and places like that. Like, until we start to move to a model in the UK, especially, similar to Holland, where, you know, it's legalized. There's social workers checking in on people. They're doing testing and all this. And even that's not perfect. It's like, sex work's always going to be problematic because of the nature of it, because of the real nature of being with someone so intimately, right? And the effects of when it comes down to people's mental health. You know, are people in the mental state to be making this choice? Are they, you know, do they have other addictions? Do they have developmental issues? Do they have trauma that's unresolved? It's like this. It's a big Pandora's box. But I would say, especially for men, if your relationship is with someone who you are paying, right, and you're fooling yourselves into believing that that's a loving and caring relationship, you're just denying a truth that you physically and deep in your being, you know, to be true. And you may not be getting hurt right now, but you're actually slowly cutting yourself. You're slowly disconnecting yourself from your real emotions and your real feelings and your soul, some people would say, by continuing an action that slowly hurts you, even though it doesn't obviously do so on the surface level of things, but on a deeper level, it's hurting you.
Yeah. So the fabled death by 1,000 cuts, but you don't even.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no. This is the thing. I think like, this is like, when you look at it from the perspectives of guys, you're like, oh yeah, it's like, yeah, it's hurting you, like it's hurting you bit by bit by bit. But I also look at it from the aspect of the ladies as well, because it's more sort of, how can I say, more sort of your like typical average Jane, who, like, when I say average Jane, I don't mean average looking, just like average lifestyle, which has like gone into this sort of realm which they would not even have considered if this like frig 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Now it's like, yeah, a lot of these girls are right. I'm in this relationship, like financial, but if they desire to want more, and when they're sort of in their sort of late teens to their sort of early 20s, all good fun. But as they get older, and if they want something more, there is not so much a scarlet letter, but it's more like, yeah, there's this sort of pressing like thing in the background. If like they want to be like, yes, okay, yeah, how comes I see this girl who looks like you come up, prepared for that conversation. And look, don't get me wrong, look, we all have pasts and everything like this. It's just, we live in a society where there is different standards and like checks and balances which are handed out to different people all around, be it down to gender, race, or like, yeah, whatever you want to pick, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, we have to, you know, when you've done these things, and it's like, it's not necessarily that there's anything wrong, right? And that's really, I come from a place more and more in life, is like right and wrong are really just ideas that we place on things, right? So but it's like, does it serve you? Is it doing good for you? Is it serve you as a person, right? Like, yeah, maybe you're making a bit of money on OnlyFans, but is it starting to make you feel very anxious about your body? Is it making you very anxious about, oh my God, is this picture going to make me enough money? Is it creating this kind of loop that actually is hurting you? Just not maybe more mentally than you realize, you're aware of at any given time. But it's also, like you said, with people's past, it will come back and you're going to have to face it, right? Because someone may judge you, they may not. And other people's judgment is less about you and more about how they see the world.
Absolutely.
Right? Ultimately, you know, like if you meet someone and, you know, you've been a stripper in your past and you say, hey, look, you know, 5-6 years ago, I was a student, I was a stripper. And that person is like, oh my God, that's terrible. You know, I can't talk to you anymore. That speaks more about their own narrow-mindedness, right? And about how they see the world and how they have their own insecurities about being with someone. But ultimately, a lot of people are like that, but not everyone. But a lot of people are. So, you know, each to their own, you know, I say with this OnlyFans, it's like, it empowers some women. Some women are making huge amounts of money, right?
Yes.
On the top end. But on the kind of lower middling end, I wonder, like, is it really a financially rewarding in comparison to the potential mental damage that it's doing?
We go back to what you were mentioning earlier with the whole 80-20 principle. So which will just be in effect with regards to that, where, okay, yes, there is a large amount of male attention, but like if you're a top of the food chain lady, but with whatever content or whatever you get up to on these channels, say no more. It's like, yeah. But you're talking, yeah, they're going to get the lion's share, maybe even less than that. It's like, yeah, I think if we there's a YouTube stat where it's like, yeah, 10% of the YouTube engagement goes to only 10% of the people on there, and the rest of the 90%, it's just like, yeah, you know what I mean? It's not really, they're not really getting the numbers or whatnot to help sustain their like lifestyle or whatnot. You might as well just say they are an enthusiastic hobbyist. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or I would simply say is in about three or 5 years time, like, yes, there's going to be a lot of people out there which I'm going to be talking to on a podcast like this. Like, so you've done this? Yeah, okay. Tell me more about that. Yeah. Yeah. See, always looking. But yeah. But like, this is the thing with your podcast. Like, yeah, I have to ask you. You started out with a partner in crime. What happened to sort of lead you to go the separate ways and you still continuing? And how comes you don't have a partner now?
Okay, yeah. So we started the podcast together. We did that for about a year and a half. And in December, he's a good friend of mine, Ahmad. He'd been writing a movie script. Something a passion of him is about writing a movie script about, you know, the journeys of life and how we do the work and grow and get out of our fear.
Yeah.
So he wasn't able to put so much time to that because we were putting a lot of time to the podcast. And he really came to him. It was just like, this is really what you love doing, right? And I was like, yeah, this is what I really, you know, you can really see this going somewhere for you. He's like, I want to write my movie script, and to do that, I need to step away. And I was like, yeah, I totally understand. I totally get it. You know, he's been my best friend for the last, probably 15 years. You know, I was the best man at his wedding a few months ago. So it's had no detrimental effect on our relationship.
No, I wasn't looking for like, yeah, that's like, yeah. So yeah, how did you fight? Yeah, no. But yeah, congratulations to your boy. Married life. I can't say that too loud because you'll see a hand coming and say, yeah. When? That's like, yeah. That's like, yeah, just keep looking over that way. So, okay. So you're continuing on with the podcast. Like, is it just now more of a guest thing, or is it a case of you have guests in and you're talking to the microphone with your sulky voice by yourself? How does it go?
So now I did a bit of a rebrand. It used to be called the Authentic Dating Series, and I rebranded it to the Authentic Man. It just felt like more aligned with, you know, all the things I want to talk about. So I've created a kind of format now where often, and it's not always going to be this way, I have a longer episode in the middle of the week, which is like, you know, anything around an hour long, and I have a guest in. Like, I've had everything from authors to coaches. I've got a dominatrix lined up in a few weeks. She's really great fun. Coaches, like all sorts. I had a guy on recently. He coaches people in open relationships and polyamory. It's great to talk to. So I have a guest, so we'll talk a bit, and then I have like a mini episode on the weekend, like a little Sunday afternoon episode I do that's like 10 minutes long, and that's kind of a very small topic with some advice about how to live better, how to date better, how to have better sex, you know, how to get more from your life, enjoy life more. And it's just very targeted. There'll be like short advice, you know, it's the sort of thing you can listen to in the morning and be like, oh shit, I can implement something from that now. So that's the kind of format I've gone with now.
Interesting. Because like, this is the thing. When like I hear like, the Authentic Man, it's like, I'm like thinking, you can like do a website with that, and like, yeah, Authentic Man fashion, Authentic Man like health, Authentic Man lifestyle. Like, it's like, yeah, lots of things come to mind like upon that, because like, yes, as we were talking earlier, about being more rounded to like get yourself like, well, to put yourself out there, rise above the average. I think, yeah. I can see you like I can see you in the future just like going, yes, I got a website, magazine, and like yeah, a media company kicking on big time. Like, would that be something you would look to, seeing as now you're out there in the world with your coaching, like yeah, free and clear?
I think where I'm seeing myself in the immediate future is, obviously growing the band, coaching, but I want to start getting into things like retreats. Like, I really love the idea of taking people on like a week-long journey of transformation and change. I've got some merch that's going to be coming out probably before the end of the year. So like, stuff like clothing and fashion is definitely something interesting to me. But it is the idea is to create like a brand, an umbrella brand for whatever comes next. And it was the idea that I had was to like create something that embodies my values, so that anything that comes out of that, because they embody my values, will always sit under this safely and feel part of that brand. Even if I started doing holidays, it'd be like, Authentic Man holidays, and they'd be holidays for people to go and do some self-learning, learn about themselves, be better, or they'd be holidays where people can actually like get to know each other and connect and have fun, right? But all would sit under the kind of idea of like, my core is really about connection with others and connection with self. Those are the core things I see as important in life for us to develop. So anything that kind of comes out of it would be an expression of that.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Sounds very good. And like this is the thing. I think you've got an exciting time coming up for you over the next like 3 to 5 years, because with regards to 2020 and all the joy that brings, like I think you're in the sort of first wave of the sort of great migration. No, I would say awakening, because there's been a lot of people who have been like, oh wait, I've got all this time, and they've sat down and they've like really had the time to pause, self-assess, and I go, yeah, am I happy with the direction my life is going? And I think you are one of those people which are in that first wave. And I think there will be many more. Yeah. So have you seen other people who have been like, yes, I'm doing this as well? Or it's like, yeah, are you alone in this like sort of thought?
No, it's funny you say that. I've actually had a lot of people come to me for help around dating and relationships, right? Men, obviously, because I work predominantly with men, who have contacted me and gone, I've had some time over the last year, and I started to see that, God, my relationships were going a certain way, and I don't want them to be that way. A number of them have gone, I've spoken to a counselor or a therapist, and now I want to start moving forward and create change, right, in life. And like I've had, there's definitely a couple of clients who have gone through career change. They've changed their job, right? They've shifted from working in corporate to working in more startup and, early years companies or meaningful work. And I've seen a few friends who have really looked at their jobs and been like, I don't love this anymore. I was doing this because I was doing all the things I was meant to do, the kind of journey. I don't know what to call it. It's you would call it the American dream, wouldn't you? If you're in America, it's like go to uni, get a good degree, make some money, get a good job at a blue chip company, meet a woman, get married, get a house, have the first baby, have the second baby, save for your retirement. It would be that sort of journey. And it's men that have realized they kind of got on that journey. And, for the guys that I'm meeting, either men who have got married and got divorced or haven't quite got married yet and gone, wait a minute, I've unconsciously just been walking this path without asking myself the question, is this what I want to do? Is this where I want to go, right? Because so many of us, we just end up, it's like a conveyor belt, right? They just churn us out at school, and we've just seen all these messages of like, this is what you need to do next, this is how you need to be. Then our families pressure us with it as well, right? But we don't really ever get the time to stop, because we're working, we're churning through work, we're going to work, we're coming home, we're on the tube, we're not on the tube, all those good things. We never stop. We have our 2-week holiday because that's all we get at a time through work, because that's all they'll give us, right? So we never get time to really sit back and go, wow, where's my life going and what do I want for myself? So inside of this, I'm seeing friends and also, like I said, clients coming to me who have, I'm helping them with more than just dating and relationships. I'm helping them shape how their life goes forward as well, right? Because when we suddenly realize that okay, I don't want my life to be going forward how it's always been. I want it to be different. The one thing that then comes in for us is fear, because now we have to deal with the unknown. We now don't have a path that's obvious to us, right? And when that happens, the fears can be big enough to stop you from even going into the unknown. You know, it happens for many, a man and woman, where they feel this urge to do something different, to do something else. Then the fear creeps in and hits us, and then it disguises itself, right, as something else, right? As, oh, you know what? I didn't really want to do something else. I'm actually happy doing this, right?
Yeah.
And that's just your fear talking to you, right? Really. So what I'm trying to do a lot of is helping guys being like, here's your fear. This is what your fear really is. Yes, this is what the fear. Lean into the fear. Let's lean into that. How can we lean into that fear more and start moving? Because on the other side of fear is transformation, right? Because it's new beginnings. It's something that fear is like a block. It's like you can't see on the other side of it because it just doesn't allow you to see. But when you start to journey through it, it's a bit like a fog. Once you start to journey through the fog, you're in the middle of the fog and it's like, shit, I can't see anything. It's really cloudy. I don't know what's happening. A bit of panic. But as you start moving through with some faith and some direction, and you start to get to the other side, you're like, whoa, what is this? This is a new experience, a new environment. Like I didn't know this was possible. When you get to the other side, right? That is something that comes up a lot for us men. I think men especially suffer from this, the fear of the unknown. You know, that masculine in us likes us to have a plan, a direction, knowing. And you know, when we get into these realms of like realizing that we kind of, as you said, waking up and going, I don't want to just go on this conveyor belt to die, because this is a conveyor belt to death. You know, for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, like this is the thing. I would say with regards to that, look, yeah, that fear. It's like when you start leaning against that fear, you start to push past the excuses which come up on the sort of daily and like day-to-day basis. And like when you do that, and I think with regards to like gents as a whole, like there is like, because like not so much it's a coddled society or whatnot. I would say it's a comfortable society, and that sort of daily sort of like, okay, I need to venture and I need to like do this and stuff like this. Because look, if you go back a few thousand years, it was a case of, okay, you had to go out there, hunt, and you had to do this, you had to do that. A lot of activity just to get small things done. Now, let's put it this way. Sunday, when it was raining hard here in London, and it was like, yeah, like me and my lady sitting down on the sofa, was like, it's like, yeah. She was like, no, I'm not going to the supermarket, because it was coming that the rain was coming down thick, like a wall.
Yeah.
I was like, right. That's like, okay, Just Eat. Yeah, no one delivering, places closed. I was like, okay. Like Domino's pizza, it landed on that precise moment in time, and they weren't even delivering. And like, look, we had to go downstairs into a car, like get into a car, drive to the Domino's, and look, this is how privileged I was. I was like, for fuck's sake, for the love of God. Having to get in the car and like, it's like going, it's not fair. They like, look, I live in a city where they can deliver. It's like, no. But that's how easy it is. You know what I mean? In the Western world. Look, there are some parts of the Western world where it's like, I'm gonna go hunting. Oh yeah, just for the fun of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that sort of effort or like drive to, well, need to sort of push someone's self that much harder. You know, that's the way I see it, and it's like crazy. But yeah, yeah, you know, but with this, like with all of this sort of ease and like, you know what I mean, comfort around there, like with that, what would you say, like on a sort of daily basis, people need to do? Not just the guys, but people in general.
Yeah. I believe that you should do something mildly hard every day. Do something mildly hard every day, right? And sometimes it can be hard to work out what that little thing is. For instance, I've been taking cold showers every day for the last, I think we're getting into like 4 months now, actually, of cold showers, right? Every single morning, I have at least a few minutes of cold shower. And it's not, and the problem with it now is it's not really hard anymore. So I'm very tempted to stop for a month. So then I go back in and I have that, because, you know, you're listening to this, you're thinking, have a cold shower. God, bloody hell, I don't need that. Like, why would I do that? That's going to be uncomfortable. Your brain is telling you not to do this, right? It's telling you all the reasons why you shouldn't do it. You've convinced, and you've probably even listening to this and you're going, oh, I don't need to do that. That's stupid, all those things. But all those silly excuses, that's not what they are. You're afraid. You are, your body, right? Your body, your ego, if you want to add into that, is afraid of the cold water, right? But you don't want to admit it. Now, because when you get close to that cold water and you're not used to it, you will have all sorts of excuses. You don't need to do this. This might make you sick. You know, the brain gets into overaction, right? Now, when you hit the cold water, you're going to be like, and all like this. And then there comes a moment when you can catch your breath and you're like, and it's cold and it's on you, and you will feel alive. You will feel alive, right? And it will wake you up in a way that you don't normally experience. Your coffee doesn't wake you up like this, right? And then afterwards, you get out, you dry yourself off, and you just have to think to yourself, wait a second, was that as hard and as difficult as I was making out before I got in? Because you're always going to get to know it's not. It wasn't that difficult. And in that moment, you realize you can do something hard. So if you do something a little bit that's hard every day, right? Cold shower is a really easy one because everyone can get to a shower usually, or a cold bath. If you want to get down like that, put some ice in there if you're really going to take it far. For some people, it might be sharing how they're feeling emotionally, right? For some people, it might be exercise, right? Some form of exercise. It could be yoga. It could be running, right? It could be anything, right? But just look at it and go, what do I find? What could be a bit hard for me that I can do? It might be a writing. One of the exercises I get my clients to do now is write about fear. Journal about fear. Write out their fears, write about them. What's underneath the fear? What's going on there, right? And the reason I get them to do this is because we run away from fear. We don't want to talk about our fear. We don't want to write it down because what is it? We're afraid of doing so, right? So do that little thing because it doesn't actually hurt you. It actually does good for you because you're starting to train your resilience, right? It's resilience training. And this thing called resilience spreads across other areas of your life, right? It might be a case of, for some people, I call this rejection therapy, right? For guys, is you try and talk to lots of women, and you know, you do this in the most kind of loving way, but you start to strike up conversations with people, right? Maybe you have a slight fear of social situations. Okay, first of all, I want you to, as you're walking down the street, just smile at people as you see them, right? Just smile and nod. You know, just like you would to a work colleague who you don't know really well, but you kind of know them and you see them pass by you in the corridor. You smile at people like that on the street because first of all, you're going to get your blood's going to go, your heart's going to go, you're going to be feeling scared and worried about what's going to happen. And then you start doing the thing and you realize, oh, this isn't that bad because it's something hard and it trains your resilience. And that is to me, is one of the best things we can do because it gets us uncomfortable constantly, right? And like you were saying before, right? We're too fucking comfortable. We're so comfortable all the time, right? Because everything's at a touch of the button, right? And it makes us lazy in so many areas of our life. And we can even circle this back to dating. What did we say about a lot of men at the beginning? They're lazy. Why? Because life's too easy, too comfortable, right? Get yourself a little bit uncomfortable all the time. And I'm not talking a lot comfortable. I'm not asking you to jump out of a plane every day or go bungee jumping all the time, but get a little bit comfortable, right? Uncomfortable, sorry, every day. And do things that scare you because it increases your edge. It increases your comfort zone, right? It expands you as a human being. Like, I'm sure if we had some type of energy measurers, right? I believe that a man's energy starts to expand when he can push his edges, right? He can push who he is because he becomes more energetic. He has more aliveness to him, you know? Like I can tell that you are a man who lives, right? You have aliveness in you. You work out, you train, you express yourself. And I can, you know, it's been evident through the whole conversation, right? Whereas you see these men often who are super comfortable and they sit at home, not doing anything. And you can see them, they are shrinking in as human beings.
Yeah, you know what? I'll definitely send you a check for like your kind words there. But you know what I mean? Yeah. What I'll simply say to you is like cash it around about not 2030. No, carry the 2050. Cash it then, and we'll be good. We'll be good. Yes. But yeah. I have to ask this question. Now, if you could interview anyone, and I mean anyone, like, yeah, fictional, real, here, gone, like anyone through time, space, history, fiction, reality, who would that be?
You know what? There's only one person that springs to mind, be Jesus.
Jesus. Why Jesus?
Because it'd be so interesting to know what Jesus's life was really like. Whether he's real or not, like, I'm not debating that either way, because we have got a world that is basically based on a book, right? Much of our society is deeply based on the Bible, right? Our beliefs, our systems, our thinking, our ways of living, the way we interact with animals even is all based out of the Bible. What would it be like to go, hey, Jesus, like, that time you fed the 5,000, how did that go down? And Jesus, like, you know what? Demand them. Yeah. They got to the stoves and they cooked a load of bread. and that's how I fed them.
No, Jesus gets all proper East London. Yeah, man. I didn't know Jesus was a road man. Yeah, you get me.
And even that, imagine that, you would realize that, what Jesus was like, how he spoke, because it would really put into perspective the world we live in. I just think it would be, that's what really come up for you when you said that, when you asked me that.
Outstanding. I must now all I've got to simply I would like one last thing I've got to know now. This is going to be the sort of real test of your psychological worth right now. Now, yeah, you may have heard me ask this question before from some other people, but I have to know this now. I'm in deep. Now, take your favorite, like, imagine a movie, your favorite movie or whatnot. Now, out of that movie, like, you know the Muppets from Sesame Street and everything like that.
Yeah.
Now, replace the whole like, what film are you thinking of?
What's my favorite movie?
Yeah.
God, that's a hard question. Do you know what comes to me now? There's a movie called V for Vendetta.
Okay. Now, what with V for Vendetta? Now replace the whole cast of V for Vendetta with the cast of the Muppets, but you've got to have one human in there. Who is that one human you have in V for Vendetta with the cast of the Muppets?
I think Natalie Portman's in the movie. It would probably be her character, because it would be funny because you'd be constantly surrounded by Muppets.
Okay.
There's another character whose name, I don't know if you ever learned his name. He's like patient number 5. He's known of in the movie. I think it's patient number 5.
Yeah, that's V.
Yeah. I think if he was the only person and everyone else was Muppets, it would be the most surreal movie to watch, because you'd have this like semi-superhuman human being that's able to do all these things, but he's terrifying all the Muppets constantly. He'd seem like some form of evil dictator almost.
Yeah, just okay. I can just see it now. Yeah, like V come running through with his knives like ablazing, like, yeah, throwing them into Muppets left, right, and center. You know what? You're a troubled man. You're a troubled man. Brilliant. Oh, I like it. And like, okay, Hugo Weaving would be the only one who would be human. Okay, I like that. V for Vendetta with the Muppets. Yes, yes. I'm just drawing this information when I go to Hollywood and go, yes, I have a whole array of scripts here, all Muppet based. But listen to me. Can you tell the lovely people out there how they can get hold of you, how they can find you on these social webs?
Well, the best place to find me is on Instagram. I do a lot of posting and replying to messages and people's help and so forth on Instagram. You can find me at @theauthenticman_. And then also my website as well. That's where I house like all my information about coaching and all the many events I'm currently running. And that is www.theauthenticman.net.
Excellent. David, I got to say thank you for coming on today. You have been an absolute superstar. Yes, to say the least. And yeah, he said nice things about me. You ain't gonna get that chicken till 2050. I mean 60. Who knows? But yes. But yeah, let me just say to you, my friends, my life warriors, thank you for staying with us, listening to the show, watching the show, wherever you might be in the world. Please stay safe, stay well, be awesome, be fantastic, be all the positive bees you can be in this world, and then some. Have a great day, guys. Yes. Peace.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. And we